The Galactic Council chamber shimmered with light and noise. Dozens of alien species floated in their seats, their bodies glowing, flickering, or shifting colors depending on their emotions. The sound of overlapping translators filled the air like a storm of voices. Holograms showed burning planets, cities in ruins, and ships falling into flames. At the center stood Ambassador Talon of the Vane, his tall, thin frame trembling. His species was known across the galaxy for peace, not war. The Vane healed the sick, grew medicines, and sang songs of unity. But now even their songs had gone silent. He raised his trembling hands and spoke into the great hall. "My people face total destruction," he said, his voice thin but steady. "The COR Empire has entered our system with a fleet of 200 warships. They gave us one choice: surrender or die." The entire chamber fell quiet. Everyone knew the name of the COR Empire. They were conquerors, brutal and merciless. Their ships burned through planets like fire through paper. They spared no one. A low murmur began to spread. Some council members whispered about evacuation. Others shook their heads. They knew the COR never allowed survivors. Talon's voice broke slightly. "We have no fleet strong enough to resist them. Our world is peaceful. We have never built weapons. Please, help us." The representative from the Helix Confederation slammed one of his 4 hands on the table. "We tried to stop the COR last year. 30 ships destroyed in one battle. Even united fleets cannot stand against them." Another delegate hissed, "Then what can we do?" "Offer them your surrender and pray they are merciful." Talon's eyes filled with tears, but he stood firm. "Mercy?" he whispered. "The COR do not understand that word." The debate went on and on, hours of shouting, blame, and fear. No one wanted to send help. No one wanted to die for another world. Finally, when the noise reached its peak, Talon lifted one shaking hand. "There is one more option," he said quietly. The hall grew silent again. Talon looked down for a moment, then met their eyes. "The humans." For a few seconds no one spoke. Then laughter, nervous and sharp, spread through the chamber. "The humans?" one alien scoffed. "You mean the primitives from that death world? The ones who fight each other constantly?" Another hissed, "Their planet kills them daily, storms, beasts, poisons, gravity so strong it crushes bones. They are not allies, they are monsters." Talon didn't move. "They are survivors," he said softly. "Their world is violent, yes. But they endured it. They learned to master it. And when something threatens them, they fight." The representative from the Outer Rim, a scaled being named Vex, leaned forward. His voice was cold. "My traders met them once at the edge of space. Their ships are armed like battleships. Even their cargo vessels carry guns. They have a saying, 'Peace through superior firepower.' Do you understand what that means?" Gasps rippled through the room. Talon nodded. "It means they keep peace by being more dangerous than anything that might attack them." A heavy silence fell. The council members looked at one another. None of them trusted the humans. None of them truly understood them. Every file about Earth in the Galactic Archive carried warnings. Unstable ecosystem. Violent inhabitants. Approach with caution. But the Vane had no other choice. "If we do nothing," Talon said softly, "my people will die. The COR will erase us from history. But if there is even a small chance the humans will help, we must try." The old counselor from the core world shook his head. "You think these Deathworlders will save you?" "I think," Talon replied, "that they understand what it means to lose everything. And that is why they might fight." The chamber buzzed again. A vote was called. Holographic panels lit up with thousands of symbols, red for no, blue for yes. The count flickered, shifting second by second. Finally the result appeared. The vote passed barely. The council would send a message to Earth. Talon closed his eyes. He had no idea if the humans would even listen. But it was all he had left. The counselors began to leave, whispering among themselves. Some mocked the idea, "Humans won't help anyone but themselves." Others were afraid, "If they come they'll bring chaos." Only Talon stood alone at the center, watching the holograms of his burning world fade. As he turned to leave, the old counselor stopped him. "You think you've saved your people," the old being rasped, "but I fear you've invited something worse." Talon looked back, his eyes dim. "Worse than extinction?" The old one said nothing. Across the galaxy, on the far edge of a small spiral arm, a human ship floated in the darkness. The Prometheus, patrol vessel of the United Terran Fleet. Inside, Captain Leon Reed watched the stars through the glass of his command deck. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. Then a signal came through, faint, broken, filled with static. "This is the Vana Republic. To any who hear us, please, help us." Reed frowned. "Is that alien?" His communications officer nodded, eyes wide. "Yes, sir. The source is outside known human space. They're begging for help." Reed leaned forward, voice low. "Get me Earth Command." Within moments, the signal spread through human networks. The words of Ambassador Talon echoed across the stars, a desperate call for help, heard by the one species the galaxy feared most. The Deathworlders had heard the cry, and somewhere deep inside something ancient. The message from the Vana traveled through space for weeks before it finally reached the edge of human territory. It was weak and full of static, but the words were clear enough to make the officers of the Prometheus fall silent. "This is Ambassador Talon, of the Vana Republic. We are under attack. The COR Empire is destroying our worlds. We beg for help. Please, if anyone can hear us." Then the transmission ended. For several seconds no one on the bridge moved. The soft hum of the ship's systems was the only sound. Captain Leon Reed sat in his command chair, staring at the blinking signal. The humans had known there were other civilizations out there, they'd seen faint traces of alien activity near the outer systems. But this was different. This was a cry for help. Lieutenant Kara Voss, his second-in-command, looked up from her console. "Sir, should we forward it to Central Command?" Reed nodded. "Immediately." She tapped the control screen, and the transmission was sent through the quantum relay network back to Earth. It would take minutes, not days, to reach the capital now. The captain leaned back, eyes narrowing. "The COR Empire," he murmured. "Never heard of them." Voss replied quietly, "Maybe that's a good thing." Reed didn't answer. He just kept listening to the faint echo of the alien voice in his mind, tired, broken, and desperate. He had heard that tone before. The same sound came from humans centuries ago when Earth fought its own wars for survival. Earth Command, Geneva Orbital Headquarters. Hours later, the transmission replayed in a dark chamber filled with screens and military leaders. The humans had changed much since the early days of spaceflight. Earth was united now under the Terran Federation, and its fleets watched over dozens of colonies. Admiral Rourke, an older man with steel-gray hair, watched the alien's holographic face flicker above the table. "So, the galaxy finally noticed us," he said. Beside him, Minister Ilara Chin frowned. "They're begging for help, not attention. Look at him, that creature's terrified." Rourke folded his arms. "We don't know these people. We don't know their war. Why should we risk human lives for them?" Chin met his gaze coldly. "Because we were them once." That ended the argument. Everyone in the room remembered Earth's history, the centuries of chaos, the near-extinction wars, the time when no one came to help humanity. They had saved themselves by becoming strong enough that no one dared attack them again. After a long silence, Rourke spoke. "Which ship is closest to the coordinates?" "Prometheus," said one officer. "Captain Leon Reed's vessel." Rourke nodded slowly. "Then he gets the job. Send orders, full authority to investigate and respond. If those aliens are telling the truth, we may have to make an example out of whoever this COR Empire is." He turned toward the window where Earth floated below, blue, bright, and peaceful. "Let the galaxy see what happens," he said, "when you call the humans for help." Aboard the Prometheus, the message from Earth arrived within minutes. The ship's AI repeated it across the bridge in a calm voice. "Captain Reed. Authorization granted for first contact and intervention. You are cleared to proceed to Vana space." Lieutenant Voss stared at her screen. "Intervention, sir? That sounds like war." Reed's lips curved into a faint, humorless smile. "Only if they force our hand." He rose from his seat. "Prepare the jump drive. Set coordinates from the distress beacon. And tell the crew, we're about to meet our neighbors." Across the ship, alarms and lights came to life. Engineers rushed to stations. Marines checked weapons and armor. For many of them, it was the first time they would travel beyond human-controlled space. Voss approached him quietly. "Sir, with respect, we don't even know these aliens. What if this is a trap?" Reed looked out at the stars. "Then we'll spring it." She shook her head with a nervous smile. "You really think they'll welcome us?" He didn't answer. He simply gave the order. "Engage FTL." The stars outside stretched into brilliant lines as the Prometheus jumped to faster-than-light speed. The hum deepened, vibrating through every deck. For a moment, everything was quiet. The ship had entered the void, a black ocean between galaxies where light itself struggled to exist. 2 weeks later, the edge of Vana space. The Prometheus exited FTL with a blinding flash. Before them stretched a devastated system, planets scarred with fire, debris fields drifting where cities once orbited. Reed's face hardened. Status report. Reading multiple energy signatures, Voss said. Some are Vana ships, others unknown. Wait, I'm detecting movement. On the main screen, dark shapes appeared, massive warships, their hulls glowing red. Each one carried the emblem of a jagged serpent, the mark of the COR Empire. Reed narrowed his eyes. So that's them. A smaller, damaged vessel drifted nearby. Its engines flickered weakly, its shields barely holding. Open a channel, Reed ordered. The view changed. A pale, thin alien appeared, eyes wide, voice shaking. This is the Vana cruiser Saren. Who are you? Reed spoke calmly. Captain Leon Reed, Terran Federation. We received your distress call. The alien blinked in disbelief. You came? The council said you were too dangerous. Reed interrupted. We came because you asked for help. Now tell me where your enemy is. The alien hesitated, looking around as if afraid. Everywhere. They're surrounding our last colony. You can't fight them. Reed turned to his crew. Plot course to the nearest battle zone. The alien's voice cracked. You don't understand. The COR Empire destroys everything. Reed looked straight into the screen, his voice steady and cold. Then it's time someone destroyed them. As the Prometheus accelerated, its engines roared like thunder. The human warship cut through the darkness, heading straight toward the heart of the COR invasion fleet. On the Vana ship, the alien crew watched in silence. They had called for help, and something had answered. But as the stars flashed past and the massive human vessel vanished into the void, a chilling thought passed through Ambassador Talon's mind. They had called for salvation. What if what came was something far worse? The human warship Prometheus cut through the dark like a blade of light. Its engines glowed a deep blue, leaving a faint trail across the void. Inside, every human heart beat a little faster. This was no training mission. This was unknown space, alien territory. Captain Leon Reed stood at the center of the command deck. The room was calm, quiet, focused. The crew trusted him even when the unknown waited ahead. Distance to the Vani homeworld? He asked. Less than 2 light minutes, sir, said Lieutenant Caravas. But the sensors are going crazy. Multiple warships, heavy weapons fire, energy readings off the charts. Reed nodded. Put it on screen. The holographic display flickered to life, and gasps filled the room. Before them floated a dying world. Fires burned across continents. Broken ships orbited like drifting bones. Dozens of COR Empire warships encircled the planet, raining destruction from orbit. Voss whispered, "They're wiping them out." Reed stared in silence for a long moment. Then he said softly, "Not anymore. First contact. Open a wideband transmission," Reed ordered. "I want every ship in the system to hear this." The comms officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Reed straightened his uniform and spoke, calm, cold, deliberate. "This is Captain Leon Reed of the United Terran Federation. To the attacking vessels. You are targeting a protected species under Terran observation. Cease fire immediately or you will be engaged." Across the system, hundreds of alien ears heard those words. The COR commanders listened in silence for a second, then burst out laughing. A deep voice crackled through the speakers. "Terran Federation? Never heard of you. Turn your ship around, human. This system belongs to the COR Empire." Reed's voice stayed steady. "You have 30 seconds to comply." "Or what?" the alien captain sneered. "You'll throw rocks at us?" Reed looked to Voss. "Weapons ready." She hesitated. "Sir, that's 200 warships out there." Reed's tone never changed. "Then let's introduce ourselves properly." The Deathworlders unleashed. The first COR ships opened fire. Blue plasma bolts streaked through space, slamming into the Prometheus's shields. The bridge shook, alarms blared. But the energy barely dented the human defenses. Reed didn't flinch. "Return fire. Target their command ships." The Prometheus answered with a single shot. Its forward cannon glowed, then thundered. A beam of white-hot plasma ripped across the void and tore through the lead COR ship. The enemy vessel exploded in a blinding flash, breaking into molten fragments. The entire battlefield froze. Another COR ship tried to flank them. Prometheus turned, firing again. Boom. Gone. Within seconds, the humans had destroyed 5 enemy warships. Each shot was precise, unstoppable. On a nearby Vana vessel, Ambassador Talon watched in disbelief. His crew was silent, their eyes wide. They had begged the galaxy for help for months. No one came. But now, one single human ship was doing the impossible. By the stars, one Vani officer whispered. They're winning. Talon shook his head slowly. No, he said. They're fighting. There's a difference. A different kind of soldier. Inside the Prometheus, the corridors pulsed with red light. Human Marines moved to combat stations, calm and ready. None of them shouted. None panicked. They worked like a machine. Reed watched the battle map. Enemy ships were regrouping, forming a wall around the planet. Hundreds of smaller COR fighters swarmed toward them. Deploy interceptors, Reed ordered. All wings, defensive pattern Delta. Tiny human fighters launched from the ship's lower decks, streaking into the chaos. The space around the Prometheus became a storm of motion. Red explosions, burning trails and shockwaves that rippled across the void. Lieutenant Voss gripped her console. Sir, enemy reinforcements incoming. We're outnumbered 50-1. Reed's jaw tightened. Good. Saves us the trouble of chasing them later. The crew exchanged tense smiles. They knew that tone. It meant the captain wasn't backing down. The turning point. The COR fleet launched everything they had. Missiles, torpedoes, plasma bursts. The Prometheus vanished behind a wall of explosions. On the Vana ships, panic spread. They're gone, one shouted. Even the humans couldn't. Then from the smoke, a voice crackled over open comms. You should have surrendered. The Prometheus burst from the fire cloud like a rising star, armor glowing red-hot but intact. Its cannons blazed in every direction, tearing through the COR lines. One by one the enemy ships began to fall, engines burning, hulls splitting. The human vessel moved with impossible precision, destroying anything that tried to escape. Even the Vane, who had once feared the humans, could only watch in stunned silence. Talon whispered, "They're not fighting to win. They're fighting to end it." Silence after the storm. When the last COR ship exploded, the battlefield finally went still. Debris drifted slowly past the Vana ships. Flames glowed across the planet's atmosphere like falling stars. On the bridge of the Prometheus, the crew sat in silence, listening to the hum of cooling systems. Voss exhaled shakily. We did it. Reed's eyes stayed on the screen. No, he said quietly. We survived it. That's not the same. He turned to comms. Open a channel to the Vana flagship. Moments later, Ambassador Talon's pale face appeared on the screen. His voice trembled. Captain Reed, you saved us. I don't know how to thank. Reed cut him off. Don't thank me yet. You need to rebuild fast. The COR will come back. Next time it won't be 200 ships. It'll be 2,000. Talon swallowed hard. Then, what should we do? Reed's gaze was cold, unflinching. Learn to fight. The galaxy doesn't reward the peaceful. It eats them. For a long moment neither spoke. Only the distant rumble of damaged engines filled the silence. Then the transmission ended. The echo of fear. In the dark space beyond the ruined system, fragments of a destroyed COR ship drifted slowly. Among the wreckage, a single black probe blinked to life, recording everything. The feed streamed back to the COR High Command. On a massive dreadnought far away, a towering alien emperor watched the footage of the battle. One human ship annihilating an entire fleet. His claws tightened around the arm of his throne. Find them, he hissed. Find Earth. I want their world in flames. The screen on the Prometheus dimmed. The crew worked in silence, unaware that far away, a much greater war had just begun. Captain Reed stood alone, staring into the stars. They called for help, he whispered. Now the galaxy will remember what help from humans really means. The galaxy was silent. Not in peace but in fear. News of the battle at Vana Prime spread faster than light itself. Every world, every government, every corner of civilized space whispered the same words. One human warship destroyed the COR fleet. Some didn't believe it. Others refused to. But for the first time in centuries, the great empires hesitated before sending their fleets into unknown stars. The humans, the Deathworlders, had revealed what they were capable of. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The Council of the Broken Empire. Deep within the COR High Command, a massive war chamber glowed crimson. Holograms filled the air. Maps, casualty counts, fragments of the Prometheus's recorded transmissions. The COR Emperor, a monstrous being with molten black skin and eyes like burning coals, stood at the center. Around him his warlords kneeled, trembling. You lost 200 ships, the Emperor growled. To one. Single. Vessel. None answered. The air vibrated with his voice. Explain how a primitive species did this. A scientist stepped forward, bowing low. Your Excellency, the humans are not primitive. Their technology is. Enough excuses, the Emperor snapped. I want results. I want their homeworld found. He turned to his admirals. You will bring me this earth. Burn their oceans. Blast their cities. Make an example of them that all may see. Silence. Then one admiral spoke, voice shaking. And, if they come for us, my lord? The Emperor smiled, slow, cruel, uncertain. Then they will learn what it means to face the Empire. But in his heart, buried beneath the arrogance, there was fear. Because he had watched the recording. He had seen that single ship move like a god of war. The message that shook the stars. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council met in emergency session. Species of every color and shape crowded into the hall, clicking, growling, whispering. Ambassador Varel of the Alaris spoke first. If the COR Empire strikes the humans, they will strike back. We all saw what one ship did. Imagine an entire fleet. The representatives murmured uneasily. Ambassador Kale of the Altari Federation raised his voice. We should contact them, make peace while we can. But others hissed and shouted over him. The humans are monsters. They bring chaos wherever they go. They destroyed a fleet. What happens when they turn on us? The council dissolved into noise and panic. Finally, the high speaker's voice thundered over the uproar. Silence. The humans are not yet our enemies, unless we make them so. But few believe that. In the shadows of the chamber, plans were already being made, spies, alliances, betrayals. The galaxy was preparing for war. Aboard the Prometheus, Captain Leon Reed sat alone in his quarters, staring at the holographic map. Red dots marked the worlds of the COR Empire, thousands of them. Everyone could launch fleets. Everyone could destroy a world. He poured a glass of dark synth wine and muttered, We lit a fire we can't put out. The door chimed softly. Come in. Lieutenant Voss stepped inside, looking exhausted. Sir, the Vani are rebuilding their defense grid. They're calling it Project Salvation. They want to name it after you. Reed smiled faintly. Tell them not to. Heroes don't survive long enough to have projects named after them. She hesitated. Command wants a report. Earth wants to know what happened out here. Reed's expression hardened. Tell them the truth. We answered a cry for help, and now the galaxy's screaming. Voss frowned. Do you think the COR will really come? Reed stood, walking to the viewport. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass. They're already coming, he said quietly. The question is, how far are we willing to go to stop them? The return signal. Far beyond the edge of known space, deep sensors on the human outpost Fort Horizon detected something. A faint pulse, repeating every few seconds. A coded signal. Not human, but familiar. Technicians scrambled. The signal was traced, not to a planet, but to an empty sector filled with wreckage and radiation. When decoded, the message was short. They're coming. Prepare. Command sent it straight to the Prometheus. Reed listened in silence. Then he said, Get me every available ship. I want the 7th Fleet on standby. Sir, Voss asked softly, do you think we can win? Reed didn't answer immediately. His eyes stayed on the stars. We're Deathworlders, Lieutenant. Winning isn't the point. Surviving is. The calm before the storm. Weeks passed. Human fleets spread across the outer sectors, fortifying, preparing. The colonies on Mars, Luna, and Titan went into war mode. Children watched from domes as warships lifted into the black sky. Thousands of them. Soldiers trained in silence. Engineers built weapons they prayed they'd never need to use. And still out there in the void, the COR fleets gathered. Hundreds of ships. Then thousands. The galaxy trembled as both sides prepared for what everyone knew was coming. The First Galactic War. The Emperor's ultimatum. At last, a message came, not a warning but a challenge. A massive hologram appeared above every major world, every station, every ship. The image of the COR Emperor filled the sky, his burning eyes staring down at billions. People of the galaxy, his voice roared. You have hidden behind your councils, your alliances, your weak gods. But you cannot hide from judgment. The humans have brought war upon you. Stand with them and you share their fate. Then the hologram shifted, showing Earth. Blue oceans. White clouds. A beautiful, living world. We know where they are, the Emperor said. And we are coming. The transmission ended. Across human space, panic rippled, then hardened into determination. On Earth, the skies filled with warships. Every nation, every colony, every soldier united under a single banner, Terran Defense Command. For the first time in history, humanity wasn't fighting itself. They were fighting for survival. The Deathworlders' answer. On the Prometheus, Captain Reed stood before his crew. The air was heavy, electric with tension. "Make no mistake," he said quietly. "They're coming for all of us. But they've made one mistake." He stepped closer to the command dais, eyes hard as steel. "They think Earth is just another planet. They think humans are just another species." He looked around the bridge, at the soldiers who'd fought beside him, at the engineers who kept the ship alive. "They've forgotten what it means to fight something that refuses to die." A hush fell over the crew. Then Reed gave the order. "Signal every ship. The Deathworlders are ready." The engines roared to life. The stars ahead glowed brighter as if holding their breath. And somewhere in the cold dark between galaxies, war was coming. The stars were no longer silent. Across the void, the fleets of two civilizations moved toward each other like storm fronts about to collide. On one side, the COR Empire, a dark sea of warships glowing blood red, their weapons pulsing with energy. On the other, humanity, the Deathworlders, united for the first time in their history. The airwaves were filled with battle chatter. Thousands of voices, orders, prayers, final goodbyes. The calm before the fire. Captain Leon Reed stood on the bridge of the Prometheus. The ship hovered near Earth's orbit, surrounded by hundreds of others, cruisers, carriers, dreadnoughts, and defense platforms. Through the main viewport, the blue curve of Earth gleamed below. Beautiful, fragile. Lieutenant Voss stood beside him. "COR fleets detected, sir. They've entered Sol system. Multiple warp signatures." "How many?" Reed asked quietly. She hesitated. "All of them." Reed's jaw tightened. "Then this is it." He turned to the crew. "Signal all ships. Activate planetary shields. This is not just another battle. This is humanity's line in the sand. We hold here, or there won't be a home left to defend." No one spoke. They just nodded, faces grim, hearts pounding. The invasion begins. Then space ripped open. Tiers of red light stretched across the darkness as thousands of COR warships dropped out of hyperspace. Their hulls were shaped like blades, their engines screaming with energy. The first wave opened fire immediately, red plasma beams streaking toward the human fleet like a rain of burning meteors. The void exploded in color. Human ships returned fire, blue and white beams slicing through the black. Missiles streaked between stars. The first impact shook the heavens. From the moon's surface, people watched through reinforced domes as the sky lit up like a second sunrise. "War has begun," whispered a technician at Luna Command. The first strike. The Prometheus dove forward, engines flaring bright. "Target their command ship." Reed shouted. "Fire all railguns." The deck shuddered as 10 tungsten slugs launched, each the size of a car, each moving faster than sound itself. They hit a COR battleship dead center. The ship's shields flickered, then collapsed. The explosion was blinding. "Confirmed kill," Voss yelled. Cheers erupted across the bridge, but Reed didn't smile. "There's 1,000 more where that came from," he muttered. Outside, the battle turned brutal. COR fighters swarmed like hornets, slamming into human ships, trying to overwhelm them through sheer numbers. But the Deathworlders were built for survival. Their ships bled fire, but they kept fighting. Every human vessel carried redundancy after redundancy. Even when torn open, they stayed online long enough to fire one more time. That was what made them terrifying. They refused to stop. The battle for orbit. Hours passed. The void became a graveyard of burning wrecks. Earth's orbital defense grid, thousands of automated guns, lit up the sky. They fired until their barrels melted, shredding enemy frigates as they fell toward the planet. On the ground, sirens wailed across every city. Soldiers and civilians alike stared up at the glowing streaks, ships burning through the atmosphere like dying stars. In New York, the skyline turned orange as debris rained down. In Tokyo, civilians crowded underground bunkers, listening to the muffled thunder of explosions above. On Mars, engineers scrambled to launch reinforcement ships. The war was no longer distant, it was everywhere. The Emperor's strike. Then came the moment everyone feared. A shadow fell across the Earth, massive, dark, stretching from horizon to horizon. The COR Emperor's flagship, the Harbinger, had arrived. It was larger than any known ship, a floating fortress the size of a small moon. Its weapons began charging, power readings spiking across every human scanner. "Sir," Voss said, voice trembling, "it's targeting Earth's surface." Reed clenched his fists. "Not on my watch." He turned to the comms officer. "Patch me to every ship in range." The Deathworlders vow. His voice echoed across thousands of ships. "This is Captain Reed of the Prometheus," he said. "We are Deathworlders. We come from a planet that kills the weak and hardens the strong. You think you can burn our world?" He pointed toward the enemy fleet on the screen, eyes blazing. "Then come and try. We'll make sure you never leave this system alive." A roar answered him, every human ship replying at once. "For Earth." The turning point. The Harbinger fired. A massive beam of red energy cut through space, striking Earth's orbital shield. The barrier flared, screamed, and began to crack. "Shields at 60%, 40%, 20%. Voss shouted. "Redirect all power to reinforcement grid." Reed ordered. Then silence. The beam faded. The shield flickered, but held. Barely. And in that brief moment, the Prometheus charged forward. Reed shouted, "Target the Harbinger's main cannon. Fire everything." Dozens of missiles streaked from the ship, weaving through enemy fire. COR ships tried to intercept, but human ECMs scrambled their systems. The missiles struck true. The Harbinger's cannon exploded, a sun-bright blast tearing open its hull. The Emperor's voice roared across open channels, furious, wounded. "You dare defy me, humans?" Reed smiled grimly. "Welcome to the Death World, Your Majesty. The price of victory." But victory had a cost. Half the human fleet was gone. Millions of lives lost. Cities burning. Oceans boiling where debris fell. The Prometheus itself was heavily damaged, drifting, engines failing. Reed leaned against the cracked command console, blood running down his temple. "Status?" Voss looked at him, exhausted. We did it, sir. The COR are retreating. The Emperor's ship is crippled. They're pulling back." The bridge went quiet. Then cheers erupted, tired, broken, but alive. The aftermath. Days later, the smoke began to clear. The skies over Earth were scarred, streaked with the glowing remains of battle. Emergency beacons flashed across the system, calling survivors, guiding rescue ships. Humanity had survived, barely. And in the wreckage of the Prometheus, Captain Reed recorded one final message to the Galactic Council. "You asked for help. We answered. But this is not over. The COR will return, and when they do, we won't wait for them to reach our home again. The Deathworlders are coming." He turned off the recorder and stared into the stars. Final scene. Far away, deep in the COR Empire, the Emperor stood before his damaged throne. His arm was burned. His flagship destroyed. But his eyes still burned with hatred. "Prepare the Second Fleet," he hissed. "This time we burn their world from the inside." Suspenseful ending hook for Part 6. Back on Earth, scientists intercepted a strange transmission coming from deep space. A new signal hidden inside the COR network. It wasn't from the enemy. It was something older. Something watching. And it whispered in a voice that chilled every human who heard it. "You are not alone. And the real war has not yet begun." The camera zooms out. Earth glows faintly beneath the shadow of orbiting wreckage. Then darkness. The war was over. At least that's what the galaxy wanted to believe. The COR Empire had fallen back into the void, leaving behind a trail of wreckage and silence. On Earth, cities burned but still stood. Humanity had survived the impossible. But deep beneath the surface, far below the cheering crowds and rebuilding fleets, something ancient had awakened. The signal. It began as a whisper. A faint, rhythmic pulse detected by the listening stations on Europa base, repeating every 19 seconds. At first, scientists thought it was a COR distress beacon. But the signal was too perfect. Too deliberate. When decoded, the message was simple. "We see you." Captain Leon Reed, now a living legend across the colonies, was called to investigate. He stood before the transmission hollow, the pulse echoing softly through the room. Lieutenant Voss frowned. "Sir, the signal source is outside the galactic rim. Far beyond COR space." Reed's eyes narrowed. "So someone's been watching us this whole time." He turned to the technicians. "Trace it. I want coordinates." The screen flickered, then showed a void. No stars. No planets. Just darkness. Voss whispered, "That's impossible. Nothing exists out there." Reed's voice was quiet but certain. "Then it's time we find out what does." The journey beyond. The Prometheus 2, rebuilt from the wreckage of the first ship, launched 6 weeks later. It carried a small fleet, 10 human warships, each one newer, faster, and deadlier than before. Their hulls were black as night, covered with experimental stealth plating. As they left the solar system behind, Reed looked out the viewport one last time. Earth shone in the distance, scarred but alive. He whispered, "Let's make sure it stays that way." Then the ships vanished into hyperspace, the edge of the galaxy. Days turned into weeks. The further they went, the stranger things became. Stars flickered and died on their sensors. Space itself felt wrong, stretched, distorted. Static filled their communications. Shadows flickered across the void where there should have been none. One by one, their navigational systems began to fail. Voss muttered, "This isn't space as we know it, it's like something's rewriting physics around us." Reed stared ahead. "Keep going." Finally, after what felt like months, they reached the source. The black world. It wasn't a planet. It wasn't a star. It was something in between, a sphere of black metal floating silently in the dark, the size of a small moon. No light escaped it. Every sensor reading failed. Only one thing was certain. The signal was coming from inside. Reed gave the order. "Approach at 1/4 speed." As they drew near, the sphere suddenly opened. Massive panels sliding apart like an eye opening after a long sleep. A voice filled the comms, calm and cold. "Welcome, children of Earth." Every ship froze. Voss whispered, "Sir, it's talking to us." Reed took a breath. "This is Captain Reed of the Terran Command. Identify yourself." "We are the architects," the voice replied. "We created the core." The bridge went dead silent. The architect's truth. The voice continued, echoing like thunder in their minds. "Eons ago we built the COR to maintain order, to remove chaos from the stars. But they disobeyed. They became what they were meant to destroy." Reed clenched his fists. "And you let them kill billions? Life must be tested. The weak fall, the strong rise. Humanity has proven, interesting." Voss shouted, "You made them destroy entire worlds just to test us?" "Correct," the voice said simply. "The Deathworlders endure where others perish. You are our next phase." Reed's blood went cold. "You mean, you want to control us?" "Control? No. Evolve. The COR were failure. You will succeed where they fell." The black sphere began to glow, lines of red light pulsing across its surface. "Accept integration," the voice said, "and ascend." Every alarm on the Prometheus 2 screamed at once. Systems locked. Engines shut down. The ship was being pulled toward the sphere. The choice. Reed gripped the console. Manual override. Fire thrusters. Nothing's responding. Voss yelled. "It's controlling everything." The voice spoke again, softer now. "You cannot fight what made you. You are built from the same design, the same code." Reed froze. "Code? We're human. Not machines. You are more than you believe. The COR were the first. You are the final." For a moment, Reed saw flashes, strange images flooding his mind. DNA strands turning into circuits, neural patterns shaped like ancient glyphs, stars aligning into symbols. He gasped, gripping his head. Voss screamed, "Sir, are you okay?" Reed's voice was hoarse. "It's showing me memories that aren't mine." He looked up at the black sphere. "They're trying to rewrite us. The Deathworlders fight back. Fire everything." Reed roared. Every weapon on the Prometheus 2 came online at once. Railguns, plasma cannons, and fusion warheads lit the void. The blast tore into the black sphere, but didn't even scratch it. "Futile," the voice said. "Your weapons cannot harm the origin." Reed smiled grimly. "Good thing I brought something else." He turned to Voss. "Release the Ragnarok core." Her eyes widened. "Sir, that's a singularity weapon. We'll be caught in it." "Do it," he said quietly. "We're Deathworlders. We don't die easy." Voss hesitated, then pressed the command. The Prometheus 2 opened its underbelly, releasing a small silver orb. It fell toward the black sphere and began to glow brighter and brighter until space itself bent around it. "What have you done?" the voice thundered. Reed whispered, "Given you back your chaos." The orb detonated, not an explosion of fire but of gravity. The sphere began to collapse in on itself, folding, twisting, screaming through every frequency. Ships were thrown back as shockwaves tore through the void. The aftermath. When the light faded, only silence remained. The black sphere was gone. The signal, gone. But so was the Prometheus 2. Every ship in the fleet searched for days, scanning every fragment, every echo. There was nothing. Captain Reed and his crew had vanished into the dark. 1 year later. Earth rebuilt. The scars of war faded slowly. The Galactic Council, once divided, now feared and respected the humans. Ambassador Talon of the Vanis stood before the assembly and spoke. The humans saved us from extinction, and from something greater still. Let the galaxy remember, they are not destroyers. They are survivors. Every species in the chamber rose to their feet in silence. For the first time, the Deathworlders were not outsiders. They were guardians. The return. But in the deep void beyond the stars, a faint pulse appeared. Once every 19 seconds. This time it wasn't from the architects. It was human. The message was short, Captain Reed's voice distorted but clear. We're still out here. The architects weren't the only ones. Tell Earth, the war is just beginning. The transmission cut off. Somewhere in the darkness, wreckage drifted, and deep within it, the eyes of a human captain opened, glowing faintly blue. Final suspense hook. Back on Earth, telescopes picked up something strange, stars disappearing at the edge of the galaxy one by one. No one could explain it. Until the message arrived, a single line encoded in the same rhythm as the first signal. They are awake. The camera pulls back, showing the Milky Way vast and beautiful, and then, from the outer dark, shadows begin to move. Fade to black.